Hello, Kuzcopia here, professional game dev, self-published author of many books and overall geek for all the familiar stuff. And speaking of which, we will be talking about the most familiar geek stuff of all geek stuffs. It's been quite something these last few years, huh? And recently, ooh, oh boy. Star Wars, what are you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? In this video, we'll continue our Walking Dead strategy by not addressing any drama or anything related to Acolyte at all. There goes all the views that I could have gotten. Heaven forbid we allow the algorithm to catch us and give us even a little bit of relevance. Instead, we'll be having a discussion about a narrative theory, particularly a specific concept that I have on why Star Wars can be very successful. You see, while most people's headcanons concern who's diddling who and what a character's sexual identity might be, my headcanons involve writing formulas that might not be real but are anyway analytically emerging from the story, and what events could be extrapolated from them. For example, Yoda's placement on Kashyyyk, was it instrumental to blinding him to the Sith machinations? After all, he was permanently surrounded by straightforward-hearted Wookiees who only thought and felt for their planet and each other? Did that provide a kind of insulation from the bigger picture that Palpatine was cooking up? In which case, could that be said for the rest of the Jedi Council? Could we say cloning tech survived somehow? Maybe? Can midichlorians get cloned would be the question. Would Han Solo be a good dad? A question that I guess was answered already. I think a lot about narrative interpretations that emerge, often against the intention of the authors, which can explain why the work in question connects with the audience so strongly or so weakly. You'll have heard of the hero's journey, a positive one, and the Mary Sue, a negative one. These are extrapolations that emerge from analyzing character stories which, at least at one point, were not following any kind of specific formula. The formulas emerge from the creative process and then get applied by following generations who work off of them, twisting them, improving them, adding to them, removing from them, and as a final result, generating new formulas. So in this video, I will indeed indulge in my little quirk nerdiness and try and articulate one of these theories for you. I'll be talking about what I shall call a character's bedrock, a single word, full foundation for a character, which can be used as a strategy to better guarantee we get characters people really enjoy, or be a lens through which we can understand why people don't enjoy a character. And when I say a character in these sentences, I might also mean a different iteration of a character written by someone else, something that is very common nowadays. Much like people usually use Star Wars Episode 4 A New Hope as the primary vehicle to explore and understand the hero's journey, we will use Star Wars characters to explore and understand the storytelling concept of a character's bedrock. To simplify, because this is complicated enough as it is to articulate, we shall retain the analysis to the 3 trilogies only. No spin-off shows, cartoons, or games. Episodes 1 through 6 authored by George Lucas, and I will also be talking about Rey and Kylo from episodes 7 through 9 authored by some corporate amalgamation that no one will ever truly identify. Further limitations will include the major Sith and Jedi characters of each generation, so no Han Solo, no Leia. I will use Anakin and Vader to talk about how you can use a character's bedrock to change the character magnificently in a way that is digestible and appreciated. Because we even have a study case for that, for changing a bedrock of a character. Alright, so first, our abstract. A character's bedrock is essentially a single unitary concept from which all their behaviors emerge, or work from. Literally one word that is both the fuel and direction of their motivations. In this video, I will endeavor to prove we can see this concept play out firmly and concisely in the Sith and Jedi characters. As we will see, Sith will take on emotions as bedrocks, and meanwhile, Jedi will take on philosophical terms or conceptual ideals like hope. We start with the easiest to defend, in my opinion, since the first movie is named after it. After him, Luke Skywalker. Starting his journey when his surrogate parents get brutally murdered by the Empire, his mentor dies soon into his journey. He gets told by his new mentor that if he abandons his training, doom will follow. After going on a suicide mission to destroy the Death Star, they just show up with another one. Yoda dies as well. Yet, through it all, Luke remains hopeful in the face of every situation and terrible odds. Completely lost in the middle of the freezing tundra and about to die? Luke finds hope. Luke is hope. His decisions, his dialogues, his arguments, the spirit with which he lives is that there is always hope, that things can still turn out like he would want them to. If only he goes for it.
If you leave now, help them you could, but you would destroy all for which they have fought and suffered.
Hope drives him forward, back and into the very bowels of an animal's carcass. Hope is how he treats others and what he gives others, his instinct being to always tell people to hope and try anyway, no matter the circumstances.
Luke, I don't want to lose you to the Emperor the way I lost Vader.
You won't.
Meanwhile, Darth Vader is all about fear. As we'll discuss later in our final segment about his transition from Anakin, it is the very origin of his character, and it is what he weaponizes to oppress others into following his will. His is a cold and terrifying demeanor, using the Force often to terrorize those around him and bring them to heel, to submission. From fear, he is Vader, and as Vader, he causes fear.
The fear of loss is a path to the dark side.
I won't let these visions come true, Master Yoda.
Obi-Wan Kenobi is a duty. It informs his every decision and flaw, which is something I can say about all characters because that's the definition of a character's bedrock. But it does. Duty towards his mentor Qui-Gon had him take Anakin on as a Padawan and turn a blind eye when things started to look off. Duty had him then take Anakin down and eventually take a loss in their final duel. His multiple allegiances to mentors, friends, promises, and the Jedi lead him down complex paths where he seeks to always find what the right thing is by following his sense of duty with great deliverance, effort, and personal sacrifice.
Come to your senses! What do you think Padme would do were she in your position?
She would do her duty.
He literally spent most of his life looking after Luke. Well, I don't know if most of his life, but a lot of years.
I will take the child and watch over him.
Qui-Gon is very much informed by faith. No other Jedi operates under the constant and continual belief that, at least for his part, things occur as the Force wills it. His purpose is to understand the Force and play his part in its fateful designs and prophesized balancing. Even Yoda is constantly racked with uncertainty, but Qui-Gon knows the Gungans are important, that Obi-Wan is ready and will be a great Jedi, that Anakin will be the one to bring balance to the Force.
Trained as a Jedi, you request for him,
Finding him was the will of the Force. I have no doubt of that.
He denied to sit on the council to instead follow the will of the Force, and so he lived his entire life just as he passed the most faithful of Jedi Masters.
He is the chosen one. He will bring balance. Train him.
Now, let's talk Darth Maul, whose bedrock is hate. I have to say, I've been so very influenced by his character development in Clone Wars that I can't really abstract it out of my consideration. I know about my early caveat, I lied. From what little we get from Episode 1, I could have gone with death, for he is silent and unrelenting, always coming for the Jedi or whoever is his target with an insistent persistence that cannot be denied. This is the feeling I got after reading graphic novel Darth Maul, non-canon, where we see him dismantling one of the oldest criminal organizations in the galaxy, Black Sun. Instead, I did choose hate. Hate can be silent and seething, or loud and destructive, and this is what Clone Wars went with, and it worked out fantastically for them. I love this video Darth Pork did, by the way, you should check it out. I'm calling it out by name, Hatred. It's all I need to say on Darth Maul's bedrock of hate. Very, very good.
At last we will reveal ourselves to the Jedi. At last we will have revenge.
Darth Sidious is aptly both emotional and conceptual. A megalomania. An unnaturally strong wish for power and control, or the belief that you are very much more important and powerful than you really are. I almost went with cruelty, since I wanted to attribute to every Sith the main way they inflict pain on others. More on that in a bit. However, without a doubt, Sidious's hunger for power is unquestionably his primary motivational engine. When he's cruel, it's to gain power. When he's diplomatic and kind, it's to gain power. He will hurt himself for it, and he will definitely hurt others. But always, everything said and done is only and just for Dooku, I believe, and I know you didn't expect me to mention him, he is arrogance, a gross overestimation of one's worth and abilities. A strong emotion that makes the best of us be easily manipulated by someone who's willing to play small and loyal. Unlike any other of the Sith, he became Darth Tyrannus only because he felt he was better than the Jedi fools who wouldn't listen to him. Convinced he knew exactly how to stop the Sith, he went on to simply become Sidious's most important and key pawn in his controlled war to bring down the Jedi Order.
I've become more powerful than any Jedi. Even you.
Anakin, finally we're here, is love. And I do mean its emotional connotations. The eros, the philia, the storge. Never stuff like agape or platonic love. Though that's where he could have gone if we weren't transitioning him into Vader, fear. Everything he does from episode 1 to episode 6 is out of love. Even for Palpatine, he has love for as a second mentor, which can be seen in his efforts to rescue him in episode 3. The only Jedi in the Order to have a wife and kids, allegedly. To have, allegedly as in I don't know if all the other Jedis were, celibate. He's also the only one to have a mother he still knew and could contact until she was murdered. I look forward to telling you about his transformation into Vader as his Bedrock swings around to its opposite. Fear.
We're not gonna worry about anything right now. All right? This is a happy moment. The happiest moment of my life.
But first, Yoda is wisdom. His sense of humor often masks his efforts to act wisely in every situation and towards everyone. His failures to stop Sidious's machinations and predict Anakin's corruption mask what is likely the highest level of wisdom we have in a Star Wars character. Actually, however, all of these situations aren't masking it, but they're actually highlighting it. Meditating the most out of all the Jedi, on all issues, and it's not even close, this guy is always meditating, Yoda seeks out the wisest course of action at every point in time, and this, alas, makes his choices predictable. To someone who is as intelligent and as in tune with the Force as Palpatine, wisdom can be easily perceived and predicted, and unfortunately, countered. It was unfortunate for Palpatine that Luke Skywalker was not doing a lot of wisdom. So Yoda shows the wisdom to abandon a fight he cannot win, even though the stakes were the entire galaxy, and shows the wisdom in training Luke despite what happened with Anakin. In general, I think most other writers have caught on to this, if only because Yoda was first portrayed as the wise old kung fu master, complete with a naughty sense of humor also affiliated to such characters.
For 800 years have I trained Jedi. My own counsel will I keep on who is to be trained.
Kylo is actually the character that made me think of this entire idea. The origin of my narrative theory, he is rage. While Vader silently chokes the terror into people, Maul will just kill them, Sidious will electrocute and inflict pain, and Dooku will mock and belittle. Kylo will scream and slam people around at the slightest of provocations. He brute forces his way with the Force, fueled by angst and anger in a way that is unmatched by any other character in the franchise. So much so people make fun of it, pointing out its teen angst. It's no wonder it's constantly brought up as the closest the sequel trilogies had to a really compelling character, because he keeps his bedrock for all of 2.5 movies, falling out of it for the second half of the third.
Show me again the power of the darkness, and I will let nothing stand in our way.
Rey is tougher for that reason. I would say I can only very arguably define a bedrock for her by examining her character for the first 2/3 of The Force Awakens. I would go with purity. I realize that might sound chauvinistic of me, that the woman Jedi is the virginity character bedrock. In my mind though, that only makes it a perfect combination. Basically, despite growing up as some kind of desert scavenger, Rey was portrayed as a smiling from the heart, joyous person, excited for life. The feeling one gets out of her throughout her meeting Finn, escaping the planet, meeting Han and Chewie, is that she is just a bundle of positivity and joy in the midst of a cruel galaxy beleaguered with almost a century of non-stop galactic warfare. She's just too pure for this world, and it would have been great for a Jedi protagonist to have a through line of being this, even while dealing with tragedy and even torture sessions suffered while trying to win the torturer back into the light. That they could keep that purity of heart. They took Rey in many different directions though, so that I can't defend this Bedrock, but that would have been what I would have gone with if you had stopped Force Awakens halfway through, and I would have been excited for it, even if I was at the time I was expecting her to be the Han Solo, smuggler-like stand-in character of the party rather than the Jedi. As many others, I expected Finn to be the Jedi. Finn would have been a great Jedi character, I think, but alas, none of this was to be.
I need someone to show me my place in all this.
These are the character bedrocks for all the Sith and Jedi. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you like this way of seeing things? What character bedrocks do you see for other characters? Of course, different characters can have the same bedrock. The character bedrock of love will be very surmisable from many characters, as would hate and megalomania. My final segment, I would like to geek out about Anakin, love, transforming into Vader, fear. See, I hold the somewhat philosophical opinion that fear is the real conceptual antithesis of love. Usually people think hate or apathy, but I say hate is the inverse of love and apathy is its absence. Maybe I'll make a more in-depth video about this at some point, but think about it in terms of emotional acts and can you perform them at the same time. Like, you can be apathetic towards someone and still show them love. You can hate someone because of how much you love them. But when you fear someone, you cannot love them, and sometimes you can't even love others or yourself in their presence, in the presence of that fear. So when fear wins out over love,
I have the power to save the one you love. I need him. Please don't. No.
Anakin becomes Vader. And when love wins out over fear at long last, Vader becomes Anakin, and that is it. Again, to conclude, I am fully cognizant of the fact this is nothing George Lucas intended. He'd laugh about my idea that he was thinking in these terms at all when he was writing all this out, and I don't make these claims. However, I believe that there are intellectually discernible concepts inside of storytellers' instincts and come out of nowhere decisions and ideas. The greatest storytellers are constantly shooting from the hip, so to speak, going by instinct, in an effort to produce a plot and narrative events that make them feel and or express ideas that they have about the world, human relationships, blah blah blah. And all of these unarticulated things that they are shooting from the hip, which work so great that they last forever in the public conscience, or fail so miserably that it causes culture war, that's my shit right there, man. Take care and be well, my peeps. This is Kuzcopia signing out of a very indulgent video. Have a great week.
May the Force be with you.
Goodbye, old friend.
May the Force be with you.